There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of Savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to
Welcome back. It's Monday again, and I want to wish everybody a great week, a great start. Also want to thank everybody because we broke 2 more milestones on YouTube. And, it only comes because of you all. You all view. We broke 250,000 views. I know many other channels out there, many other people out there that are doing stuff on YouTube, and you all choose to look at us. And I want to thank you for that. And the other one was we broke 2,500 subscribers. So subscribe, because we got a lot of material coming out. And on Mondays we usually touch base on answer some questions. And one of the questions that was asked was, who was the Cannon Man? Matt Louis Vignero. We're going to touch base on him because, as we know, and Savate in the books one says, there are many, many colorful characters. Many of them were very folkloric, especially in the 1800s. A lot of stuff is not written. What is written was written in some of the books in the 1800s, and people get bits and pieces left. But a lot of these stories, like I tell you, we're talking to my people that I know, a lot of conversations that I've had, and issues with that, and a lot of conversations that I have with my professors, and what happened here, what happened there, reading books, you see something, you ask a question, and you get some stuff back. But Maître Louis Vignero was known as a cannon man. Very special, because he used to literally carry a cannon on the shoulder and shoot it. Okay, he did Savate, and he did lute, and he also did baton, which not Lacan, baton. And he was a teacher of Joseph Charlemont, who was the father of Charles Charlemont and many of the other masters and professors of Savate. At the turn of the 18th century, Charles Charlemont was Count Baruzzi's teacher, and that lineage there. And a lot of books, Frances, is really tied in more with the Charlemonts. And there's others, but really the lineage goes more on that route. Savate is more with others, right? But here we have Louis Vignero. In Vignero, when you talk to many others, and I had some conversations with some, and they say, no, it was just a legend, it's a myth. Believe me, I searched the myth. I'm going to show some footage of, I found his tomb. His tomb has a cannon, and the cannon, what happened was that he was doing a demonstration, and the cannon exploded and it blew part of his head off. And that gave way to many other things, especially in the military, that led to shooting shoulder cannons, smaller ones, which led to the science and to the bazooka and so on and so forth. Okay, so he's kind of in that figure. But now we're looking for the tomb of legendary Professor of Savate, Louis Vignero. But who was he really? Who did he learn Savate with? He learned it by the name of Gruner. He trained with him. Okay, you have to acknowledge the fact. In 1848, He opened his first school. It was a school in Raymond Mazon, and I know Raymond Mazon very well because Raymond Mazon was where my professor Buitrón had his club. So in the 1848, there was already Savate implemented at Raymond Mazon. I mean, you're talking about, Texas had just become a state a long time ago, and they were already doing Savate. But what made him very special and unique was not only his size, because his student, Maître Joseph Charlemont, used to say that he had colossus in nature. He had Hercules type strength, but yet he was limber and he could kick and he can jump 2, 3 kicks in the air and do all these type of techniques that, that's why he was his teacher. He was a bone roller from the 1800s. These are people that were respected because of what he did. There's another thing that goes into that. There was in the 1850s, you have to realize, you had a lot of fights going on. You had fights in the corners, you had fights in restaurants, you had fights in salas, in the schools. But the ones in the like the Waltham and everything else, those were big areas where people go eat and watch a fight, have a couple of beer. This is what entertainment was like. Well, everybody talks about UFC, MMA, fighting one art against another, trying to see who's the toughest, who's the bravest, who's the best. They want to say that it's a new concept. Believe me, it's not a new concept. This has been going on since the Greeks and the Romans, the gladiators, pit one against the other. But guess what? In Paris, in the 1800s, especially 1850s, you were fighting Savate against boxing, Savate against wrestling, okay? Savate against Chasson. And Louis Vigneron was one of them. And in Montesquieu was the name of the salle, the place that everybody would fight at, if I'm pronouncing the name, Montesquieu. And there was a gentleman over there that everybody was afraid of. And here's where Vigneron made his name. Rimbaud was very tough, very formidable guy. And guess what? He would beat everybody, as Professor Salvini used to tell me. He would beat everybody. I mean, he had everybody scared left and right. But Vigneron came in, and that's where his name was made. He beat Rimbaud, known as the Resistance. And understanding that, he basically gave a name to Savate. A lot of people didn't, he fought boxers as well. He fought a boxer by the name of Dickinson, and people never understand what everything was going on, but things like this happened. In the 1850s, fighting was commonplace. The entertainment was there. People wanted to go see a fight. And that's where he made his name. His student, Joseph Charlemont, talks about that. Talks about how he would move, extraordinary force, that he could kick, that he could move, that he had never seen anybody like that. And he also made a name when he was fighting. I'm trying to remember the wrestler's name, but they called him the Terrible, Arpin the Terrible. And he fought him, and he beat him. And later on, he fights Dickinson, Savate against boxing, and beats Dickinson. And he became so popular. He became so popular that everybody wanted to go train with him. But you have to understand, there was a lot of clubs of Savate in Paris around that time. You still had the Founders Club of Michel Cassou was still teaching. Okay, you had the Lecour brothers with Boxe Française. They were still teaching. You had Le Brocheur. He was still teaching. We'll touch base with them. Right now, we're talking about the Cannon Man. And it says that after he was fighting Dickinson and moving on with many others, they wanted to celebrate. And they had a celebration. during that celebration, he was doing, you start feeling happy and shows this demonstration, and he was demonstrating techniques, and he ends up killing his best friend. Okay, somebody that he loved like a brother. They were showing techniques, and he picked them up, and they said that he threw them behind him, and he literally went out a window. And when he landed, he killed himself. Well, he was very hurt with that. You know, some people say that he went to prison for a couple of years. Others say he just went in there for a year. Others said that nothing had never happened. But whatever occurred was that everybody comes to one thing together. That he killed his friend for demonstrating. And that happened. Why? Because they were feeling lucky. They went to a friend's house that used to make wine, and his bar actually, the little stable that he had where he used to make wine. Everybody was drinking, we're having fun, celebration, and they started, show me this technique. Let me do that. Well, that's what happened. And it happens in today's society as well. You start drinking, we feel we're Superman, and things occur, and good things can occur as well. Stupid stuff can occur, and that's exactly what happened. But that it is mentioned a lot about it, the death of his friend, and unfortunately, that's part of his history. But you have to also remember that his name became very, very powerful. He became very, very famous. People wanted to train with him. They wanted to train with him all over the place. That at one time he had 6 schools. Imagine that. Well, his name, Vignero, the Cannon Man, became so famous that he had schools throughout Paris. He had all the professors basically trained with him or went through him at one particular time for another. They say that his school was open doors to everybody, and he had a sign there. He had a sign that says, "If you want to try my Savate against your boxing, please do so." And people even say that that people come off the street and will challenge him, and they'll find out real quick. But at that time, he gathered all the different fighting arts, and they tried to do like a show. And during those demonstrations, he'll get a cannon, and he'll fire a cannonball out of it. And that's basically how he ended up dying. He died of the accident. And what happened was that the cannon blew up, and it blew half his head off. And when you see his tomb, the cannon that exploded is buried on top of it as well. That's on top of his tomb. And this is something that we all need to understand, especially the history of our art, because everybody wants to find out where our art comes from. Savate, Buitron says. We had great legends, myths within it. We have very colorful professors. In today's world, there's not that many professors teaching. There's more trainers going into becoming more of a sport. But those professors are still there, and each one of them was very special. And each one of the professors that died took a part of Savate with them. Okay? You have to understand that. And I'll leave you with this note. Go train, because maybe one day you're going to be one of the ones that people are going to be talking about. You might be the one that's going to be building champions, building schools, becoming those legends of old. Okay? Savate's continuing growing. There's way too many stories. It's beautiful art. And it's an art that is very close to home because it's a Western art. And we're still in connection with our past. And I had a conversation with Professor Big Blue under Jeremy last week, and he says, Paul, the professor is the connection of the new student to the past. I said, you're correct. and it's continued to be taught orally. Now you have a couple of more books out. I've written 14 books. Only 3 are in print right now. The rest of them are not. And those 3 are in print. You can still get them. We just give us a call. You can order it through us. Keep the questions coming, because if the questions coming, more things are not forgotten. But once more, with all respect to those that came before us, especially the Cannon Man, Buitrón, who made Savate and put Savate's name around the world, because guess what? He had beaten world champions. He had beaten fighters from around the world, and the newspapers had carried it around. Right? So again, once more, thank you for listening. I know there's a lot of material out there. You chose to watch us. Until next time, much peace.
Train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Buitron Academy, 956-401-4868. Savate.biz.